Hey everyone, this is Jared from Gertrude. In this video, I'm going to show you how to put an iPhone into supervised mode using a program called Apple Configurator. There's a bunch of reasons why you might want to do this. It gives you access to some powerful controls that Apple doesn't make available otherwise. You can do certain things in supervised mode that you can't in any other way. Over on this screen, I'm showing my son's device. This is the actual Apple iPhone that I'm going to go configure. And then I've got this other screen, which is my computer. And I'm taking this video of both of them live, so I'll be cutting back and forth, but I'm showing you every single step and only cutting out parts that have to do with passwords or speeding up slow things. In this video, I'm going to specifically be showing how to install the Gertrude Blocker app for iOS. This is an app that, because of Apple's restrictions, only works for devices owned by kids under 18. But if you wanted to use it for someone over 18, that's an example of when supervised mode comes in handy. So I'm going to be showing how to get Gertrude Blocker installed on a device that's owned by somebody over 18 using supervised mode. But if you're just looking for instructions on how to get a device into supervised mode for any other reason, all the other steps will be the same. So you can just follow along and do whatever you want in supervised mode. Okay, there's a couple things we need to do in preparation to get started. One of which is you need to know that you have to have a Mac computer in order to do this. That's because you have to run this app called Apple Configurator, and it's only available on the Mac. So if you want to get this app, you just need to pull up the App Store app and search for Apple Configurator. It's a free app. It's this one right here. I've already got it downloaded, but you can click it and install it. Once you've got that done, there's a few things you'll need to do in preparation with the device. So over here, I have my son's iPhone that I'm about to put into supervised mode. And because of the way this works, you have to fully erase the device in order to get it into supervised mode. This is one of the things that makes it difficult. But if you follow along, you'll see it's really not that bad. But because you have to erase it, there's a few steps you need to do first. For one, you want to make sure that the device has a very recent backup. So plug it into whatever computer it's normally plugged into and verify that you have a recent iCloud backup. And I think it's a good idea also just to double check anything that's super important that you have off there, that all your recent photos have been uploaded, stuff like that, just for peace of mind, because you are going to need to 100% erase it. Now keep in mind that after you've erased it, you can pull almost all that data back from iCloud, so you really shouldn't lose any data, but you never know, so it's good to be extra careful with these sorts of things. Another step you might want to do is just make a list of all the apps that you have on the device already, because you're going to have to do this manual step to get them back on there. And so if you forget which apps you have or which ones you want to restore, that can be a little bit time consuming. So you can come over to the device here. I'm going to open this up. And you might want to just take a look at all the screens. You can take a screenshot like this and maybe just kind of get all the apps, just take a picture of every single one. So you might want to do that beforehand as well. So when you've got all that taken care of, there is one more preparatory step, which is you actually have to remove the phone from FindMy in order to do the configuration. So in order to do that, you actually have to turn the phone all the way off. So I'm going to hold these two buttons and slide to power off the device. Once it's off, you want to go in a browser to icloud.com/find, and you should see a listing of all your devices if you're logged in. And what you want to do is find the device that you're about to put into supervised mode and remove it from this list. So I'm going to go down here. Here's the device. And I want to click remove this device. It's going to give you this warning. Go ahead and click remove. And I have to put in the password for the Apple ID of the device. Okay, once you've done that, you want to see this little area that says will be removed. That's perfect. As long as you see that, you'll be able to put it into supervised mode. So once I've done that, I can close out iCloud, and then I'm going to launch the Apple Configurator app. This is what the Apple Configurator app looks like by default, and I'm going to walk you through all the steps here. The first thing you need to do is turn back on the device. Take just a moment. And then plug in a cable from your device to the computer. So I've got this cable and it's plugged into the computer as well. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this in. I'll wait for this to boot up. Okay, so now I'm seeing this lock screen. I'm going to try to open the phone. And then you're going to see this dialog right here. It's very important that you have to say trust this computer. So click trust, click trust. You probably have to put in the passcode. Once it's trusted, then you can see on my screen over here that I can see sort of this mirror image of my son's iPhone. And that's good. That means we're ready to go. The next thing we do is on the computer, we are going to come up here and we're going to click on the device, and then you'll be able to press this button, Prepare. Click that. And then leave this set to manual configuration with these two checkboxes selected, and then click Next. Leave this on or put it on Do Not Enroll in MDM and click Next. I'm going to click New Organization, Next. Skip this step about sign in. We don't want to do that. And then type any name for an organization. And you can leave all this stuff blank. You can fill it in. It doesn't matter. On this screen, you want to click Generate a New Supervision Identity. Then click Next. You can leave this just like it's shown here with Show All the Steps, and then click Prepare. And then it's going to start working. This can take a couple minutes. And you'll probably see this warning that it's already been prepared. That I don't think is true. This Apple Configurator app is designed to be used by schools and organizations and enterprises. It does not seem like Apple has put a lot of energy into making this easy to use. So there's a lot of inscrutable messages, and you just kind of have to go with it. But we definitely want to erase. So we're going to click Erase. Don't be concerned if this process takes several minutes. It can go faster, but it has to do a lot, so just hang tight. Okay, so you can see now that I've got this unexpected error. I have no idea what this is, but I have seen it before, and it seems to cause a problem. I'm not sure. You can see the iPhone is showing this error of, hey, it's locked. I've been able to get around this before by just redoing the prepare step. So I'm going to click stop, and then I am going to click prepare again and just kind of select the same things. I won't go as quick or as slow this time. Prepare, and we'll just try again. Okay, so this time I did not seem to get that error, which is good. So we will proceed. The first thing we want to do is just double check that we definitely got it into supervised mode. And the way we do that is by going to the Settings app. Now, because I got that error, it may not have worked, so I may have to prepare again. And this is just kind of one of those things you have to do. So I'm going to scroll up here, choose English. And I need to put my password in here. To be honest, I'm not sure if this worked this time. I've had this fail a bunch of times. The first time I try it, sometimes I have to do it twice. I don't know why. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but we'll just check in a moment. When you see this screen, you always want to say, don't transfer anything. And we'll set this up later. We're going to create a passcode. You have to enter the Apple ID for the person that you're putting into supervised mode. I need a two-factor code, so it's important to have some other device that's logged into this Apple ID so you can get that code. I've got my son's computer over off the camera. All right, when you get to this screen, I would advise actually clicking Customize. The reason for this is by default, it tries to bring through any screen time settings you already had set. So if this is a child's device and you had some restrictions on screen time, which is great, they can actually interfere with the process of configuring it and getting it into supervised mode. So I like to take a little bit extra time and just make sure nothing is transferred at all. So I'm going to click Customize. This screen doesn't really matter, but I'll say download automatically. We'll set this up later. We're going to set up Apple Pay later. Do as many things later as possible, but this is the part that's sort of important, which is we don't want to pull the screen time settings over. So I'm going to say set up later. This doesn't really matter, and this doesn't matter either. Okay, so now we're done, and we have to check if it worked. So the way we do that is we go to the Settings app, and what we're looking for is right here where it says, this phone is supervised and managed. So if you see that, then it worked. It looks like we're in good shape here, but like I said, I've had it happen where I thought I did everything right, and then this didn't show supervised. And if that's the case, just do the process again. Click Prepare up on the Mac by clicking on the device and then prepare, and just do it again. So at this point, the device is technically supervised, but it doesn't really have any restrictions. And the way those are created is by this concept of profiles. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, I want to actually download and install this app that I'm going to use as kind of our demonstration of what you can do with supervised mode. And so I'm going to go over to the App Store. And I'm going to search for the app, which is called Gertrude Blocker. We're going to download that. Okay, so now we have this app installed. We can see it. This app doesn't work on a normal device if it's not owned by a child who's under 18, but we're going to make it work using supervised mode. Okay, another step we need to do is over here on your computer, we're now going to go up to this account menu and choose sign in. And at this point, we are going to sign in with the Apple ID of the device that we're configuring, not your own Apple ID. And don't worry, this doesn't actually log you out of your own computer. It's separate somehow. So this is temporary, and you can later on sign out and do it with a different child if you need to. Again, you might need access to be able to get a two-factor code. Okay, so because we've reset the device completely and erased it, it's got just all the stock Apple apps, except for this one that I installed, Gertrude. All the rest of these are just the ones that come with the operating system. So we need to get the apps back on it that your child needs. And so it's for that reason that we logged into the account here. And now we're able to click here and go Add Apps. And what it's going to bring up if you're logged in is basically a list of all the apps they've ever had. This could be a pretty long list, but generally you want almost all of these. Maybe if there's some on here that they deleted, then you don't have to put those in here. But I'm going to, for the sake of this video, just add a couple of these, and I'll come back later and get the rest of them. Once you click add, you have to wait a few minutes. It downloads the apps. If they're big, it can take a few moments. So sit tight once again. Here I got an error message about they're already existing. This one app already exists. I guess we can just replace. I don't think it matters. Okay, so now we should see that I've got a couple apps on here. It looks like some of them are still downloading, so I'll just wait a moment. In a couple minutes, we're going to get it to where all the rest of these apps are gone. So things like Safari will be gone, Apple Music will be gone. The supervision process gives you total control over what apps are allowed. You can do a lot of the same stuff with just the screen time feature, but supervision lets you do all that, and it gives you some extra powers. All right, so now that we've got our apps installed, we are going to take the next step, which is creating what's called a profile. And to do this, we're going to go up here and click the Add button. And, oh wait, nope. We're going to go up to File, New Profile. And a profile is essentially kind of a grouping of settings for how you want to control the supervised device. The whole point of supervision is that somebody, the supervisor, gets to stipulate exactly what's on the device, what can be done, what can't be done. Think of like a school, a device owned by a school. They want to very tightly control exactly what is on the device, even more so than a regular consumer device. And so by using this Apple Configurator and supervision process, you get access to all these extra controls. And unfortunately, they're just piled in these giant lists of things that are not terribly user-friendly. Again, they're designed for institutions and schools, but it's no big deal. I'll show you kind of how to do all of it. And in the tutorial that's on our website, I'm going to give you a sample profile for you to start from that's got all my recommended settings, and then you can tweak it. Everybody's situation is different, so you'll customize it as seems good to you. Okay, so you'll give it a name. I'm going to call this Win. You can change the identifier if you want, but you don't need to. You don't really need any of these organization or description, but this part down here is important, security. I advise that you put this to with authorization, which basically makes it so that the supervision can't be removed, and even better is to put a password on it. If you don't do this step, then basically the user themselves can go into the settings app and they can remove the configuration, but this makes it just completely impossible, and so definitely do this step. If you come up here at any point to File, Save, it'll save this, or you can just do Command S, and you can put it in a spot anywhere on your system. Great. So most of your controls are going to be in this area called Restrictions. So click this and then click Configure. This area has a ton of options, and I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to put it in the state that I normally do, what I recommend. You can make whatever decisions make sense for you and your family. This one is sort of important, allow removing apps. We don't want this because, for instance, in our case, we're trying to use this Gertrude Blocker app, and we don't want the user of the phone to be able to remove that. We also want to make sure not to allow erasing all content in settings. I like to click Defer Software Updates because sometimes new iOS updates can introduce new security holes and parental controls issues, so we definitely don't want those like bleeding edge updates. Again, I know there's a lot of settings here. I'm going to give you my recommendations, and also there'll be some screenshots of how I have this set up in the tutorial. Next, we're going to go up to the top, and we can go over to this third area, Media Content. I'm going to set these where I want them. I think it's best to actually leave apps on Allow All Apps. If you set an age rating, it can cause weird problems. And if you do what I recommend, which is only permit the apps that you explicitly allow, then they won't be able to install their own apps anyway. And so I like to leave this on Allow All Apps and then control which apps are installable. Next, I'm going to go to this middle section called Apps and make a few settings over here. And what I was just talking about is this section right here called Restrict App Usage. I prefer to set this to only allow some apps, and then it takes a little more work. You have to actually list the apps that you want allowed, but it gives you the most control. So I'm going to add back in those few apps that I said were allowed. You need to make a note here that this is all apps. So even things like the clock app and the weather app, if you want those to be allowed, they need to be listed here. There's a bunch of these that I would need to list that I'm not, for the sake of the video, going to show, but I'm just going to do a few of them so that you can see how it works. I'll do Spanish dictionary. We'll put Zoom on there. I'll go ahead and add the clock app just to show you how you get a system app right there. And I also want to list the Gertrude Blocker app as well. Any app that's in the App Store should theoretically show up here. Okay, I'm going to save my profile and then show you what it looks like to add this profile. The way you do that is you right-click on the device, or I think if you highlight it and then go up here to add, maybe that works too. I always right-click it and click Add Profiles. Then you have to find that profile you just made and saved and click Add. You'll see on the phone over here that immediately all the apps disappeared except for the ones I whitelisted. So he's got clock and he's got those, which is great. And you may need to take some time to totally dial in exactly which apps you want on the device. It's good to know that when a device is supervised, it doesn't mean that you can't also use screen time. You definitely can. So if you go into settings and then screen time, you can still lock the screen time settings and control all the things you're used to from screen time. So I like to do a mixture of both, supervision for some of the things that only it can provide, and then also use screen time as well. The next step I'm going to show you is specific just to the Gertrude Blocker app. So if you're not doing that, you can skip this portion. But if you are trying to get that installed, you'll need to go ahead and edit that profile we were just working on. And we are going to go into this area called Content Filter and click Configure. And in this area, we're going to add for a filter type plugin third party. And for the filter name, we're going to type Gertrude. And for the identifier, we're going to put in exactly com.netrivet.gertrude-ios.app. And then we can save that profile. Now we've made a change to our profile, and this gives me a chance to show you that by default, those changes actually don't sync over to the phone, and there's no button that says like sync the profile. This can be a little confusing at first. What you actually have to do is you have to remove the profile and then add it back. They make this seem scary, but it's pretty fast, and I've done it a million times. You just get used to it. It says, are you sure you want to permanently do it? You can't undo it. But really, you can just add it right back. So it only takes a second. You can see immediately all the rest of the apps appeared. And this is kind of a useful feature of supervised phones, is that you can get them totally locked down the way you like them. And then if you need to do something kind of unusual, then you can just plug them into your computer with Apple Configurator, and you can remove the profile for a few minutes, do something, maybe install an app, maybe update an app, and then you can add the profile back, and then you're right back where you want to be. So now that the profile has been removed, I'm going to right click again and say add profile and choose the same one, and this is going to get the new setting that I just created synced over there. Now if I launch the Gertrude Blocker app, it should show that it is blocking, and that's what we want. And this would not be possible without a supervised mode unless the device were owned by a child under 18. And that's basically it. Those are all the main steps, but I'm going to give you a couple more tips and tricks to wrap up. First, if you want to add a new app that your child doesn't have, then you can come back to Apple Configurator and go Add Apps. Now, if you just pick the one from here, I don't believe this works without first actually sort of whitelisting it over on the profile. So I'm going to go back to this profile, and we're going to go up to restrictions and to apps, and let's say we want them to be able to text. So I'm going to choose messages, which is the built-in text messaging app. We'll add this, save our profile, And then we'll try right-clicking here, and we're going to say Add Apps. Now, it may not give you any results if you look for it. I think that's because Messages is a system app. So if it were just an app you downloaded from the App Store from some other developer, you might be able to add it there. But I'm not seeing it. So what I'm going to do is quickly remove that profile and then add it again. And I think what's going to happen is when the profile is removed, there's the one I want to remove, all of a sudden I'll have all my apps again, including Messages. And then when I put the profile back on, it'll now see that Messages is allowed. So we'll add the profile back. Sure enough, there's Messages. And we can test that the Gertrude Blocker is working. By going in here and looking at the App Store, and if all the images are empty, then we know the Gertrude Blocker is working. And if you want to add an app that's not a system app, the process is really similar. I'm going to go up here and say Add an App. I'm going to choose one of these, maybe Signal, click Add. And I'm not sure if this is going to work because, again, I haven't explicitly allowed this app, but we'll just see what happens. So it's giving me an error that I can't install the app. So that's fine. I'm just going to come back to the profile. I'm going to add it over here in the app section. There it is. Going to save this. And then we'll do our remove and re-add. So at this point, I'm going to try to add this app again, and this might work or it might not. I've had success with this, and I've had other times where I've been blocked. Okay, so it appears to work for me, but if you get in a state where you can't install it in this method, then the other trick I've used is to go back to the profile and uncheck the setting that, I think it's over here in Apps. Or no, I think maybe it's in functionality about allow installing apps right here. So sometimes what I've done is actually turn this on, remove the profile, added the profile, and then got the app installed, and then I go back and uncheck this. But we see that Signal is available here. So now, because I've already listed it here, save one more time. And if we add this profile back, then when it clamps down again, you'll see the app is allowed. So that's how you install apps. There's a lot more settings in here that you can explore. I don't even know what all of them do. Most of these other sections down here, usually parents don't need these, but they may be interesting to you. You can explore them and Google some of what they do. But I've found that the combination of this screen right here plus restricting apps, plus using screen time gives me as a parent all the control I want, and I get extra powers like the ability to install content filters like Gertrude Blocker, which aren't allowed for people over 18. That's all. I hope this was helpful. I know it's a little scary to erase your kid's device, but it's really not that bad, and you can also restore an iCloud backup. If you don't do the step I showed you where you customized and then removed all the settings, then you can actually get more of your kids, their background images, their wallpaper, and some of their settings can get pulled over safely too if you want as well. Just be careful about that thing about installing apps and screen time I mentioned. It does take a few minutes, but it's super worth it. And if you have any questions about it or run into problems, we're happy to help. Just reach out to us at gertrude.app/contact.